All right, how's it going, guys? Steve here, Interglobal Comics. So we just had the Comic Connect foreign comic auction in last night, and my overall thoughts were that the books that should have done good did actually really well, and the books that were in there for the most part, like the majority of the auction, was just like kind of a weird mix of Spanish keys that aren't hard to find, some Brazilian keys, that can be tough to find in decent condition. But really not a very good mix of books compared to the past auctions. Probably a lot of this has to do, I think, with I don't think this one had books submitted by Sky Ott, the kind of the well-known Brazilian foreign comic collection that his family has. He's last couple Comic Connect auctions, I think, has been a pretty big part of that, and this one doesn't seem like he was part of it because I didn't see him promoting it at all. And he just did the Heritage auction that I made my last video on. So, but so overall, the overall auction was like kind of lackluster. I felt like there wasn't really much there to draw people in, but the big books, which was obviously the non-canon wedding issue, Spider-Man wedding issue. There's the Big Booty Gwen non-canon and the Japanese Superman, and those brought in big money. So and those books that deserve to bring in big money. So we'll go through this. I just kind of some of these I'm going to just touch on real quick, just because they're not really. There wasn't a lot of interesting books to go through. So there's a lot of keys, but they're not really hard to find keys. So we'll start. So we got Superman's girlfriend, Lois Lane. This is the Spanish price variant. So there's two versions of this. Both were on sale at the auction. Low grade, sold for $48, and that's with the buyer's premium. So that's pretty bad. I just sold one of these on eBay for $100. Less than a month ago. These Spanish price variants, they pop up from time to time on the Spanish auction sites, and you'll get lucky and you get a Mexican, regular Mexican edition as well, which tend to be tougher to find than the Spain edition. And they're both printed in Mexico, so this is a legitimate price variant. And you can tell by this. Let's see if I can zoom in here. You can tell by this corner up here where it has the PTAS 7. That's the price, the pesetas. So yeah, that one sold cheap, $48. Not a big key or anything, but just kind of a fun book people like to collect. We've got the first full appearance of the Smurfs. This was in Spirou 1071 7.5, so pretty decent condition. And this one sold for $657, pretty solid price. I feel like at one point you could find these on eBay, fairly inexpensive. And they, I don't know if Smurfs are popular or not. I don't think my kids really know who the Smurfs are, but it has nostalgia for a generation. I think I was too young. It was kind of, the Smurfs seemed kind of old school to me when I was a kid. I don't know when they were popular, in the 80s or maybe 70s. I'm not sure. But, for kind of a generation maybe before me, the Smurfs was kind of a big deal. So having the first appearance of the Smurfs, and this was like first appearance ever, was in this. So, it's pretty cool before the cartoons and all that. All right, and then we've got the Mexican edition. So you can see it doesn't have that price up there. This one sold a little, barely better, $51. Still, you could have gotten probably more money on eBay for that. Just waited for the right buyer. But low grade, 3.5, looks pretty faded. So yeah, not a great sale. All right, so then this is the first cover appearance of the Smurfs. This is PU 1072. So you can see them all over the cover there. Up on the top, there's Papa Smurf. So this one went for $557. This one actually surprised me because this is not a hard book to find. Marvel Preview from Spain, first appearance of Star-Lord. This one sold for $75. So with kind of the Marvel Cinematic Universe kind of not really doing what it was, for a lot of people. Like, yeah, Deadpool was good, or Deadpool Wolverine, that did great at the box office, but pretty much everything, for a while has kind of been tanking. The shows, the movies, they're not really getting the same draw that they did. So we'll see what the new Captain America, I guess it's the Falcon now as Captain America. We'll see how that does, but I'm not going to hold my breath. The storylines and just the characters just don't seem quite as intriguing as they once were. So let's just hope they hurry up and bring the X-Men, because that's all I really care about. All right, so that's sold for $75. You could probably find these still, on the Spanish marketplace for, maybe $15, $20 for a decent copy. So there's still some room to make some money on that if you can track down a couple. These are all, they look somewhat similar to the American cover, but these are all redrawn by Lopez Espy. So that's kind of a cool thing about the Spanish books. They're not hard to find, but they have cool variations to them that makes them, fun and interesting. Same thing here, She-Hulk 1 from Spain. I think this cover looks better than the American book. $60, that's very low. I don't know if the show just tanked the value of She-Hulk 1, I don't know. But this, I've sold plenty of these for $75 to $100. This is a book that you could sell all day long. Pretty much maybe from like 2017 or 2017 to like basically 2021, and you can find these all day long, for $5 to $10. Find a decent copy and flip them. I think I typically would save kind of the best copy for myself for my collection. So I have a pretty high grade copy of this. It's something I've kind of wanted to slab in the past. It's just kind of a pain in the ass to slab magazine size books with CGC. Another redraw, Marvel Premiere 15, first appearance of Iron Fist, kind of a funky, like graffiti logo's kind of cool, the coloring's kind of crazy, sold for $61. So, I guess that's a decent sale. I'm not too sure. I haven't really kept track, but I know you can still find these, fairly cheap, maybe more like $20, $30, on the Spanish marketplace. Get lucky sometimes, still find them for $10 or less, but they're not especially rare or anything. So this is just kind of like some of the crap that was in there, $20, $30 books. First Cloak and Dagger from Spain. First, who's that? Monica Rambeau from Spain. Nothing. These were I would just call these like COVID books. Like basically books that got pumped from all the Marvel TV shows and the huge influx of new collectors that we're just kind of speculating on everything. But those days are done. These books just don't hold much value, and they definitely, in my opinion, don't really deserve to be in the Comic Connect auction. They're just kind of lower tier books in my eyes. As first, Mr. Sinister from Spain. Nothing too fancy, too crazy. $30. That's pretty inexpensive. Especially if it is a 7.5. It probably should have sold for more than that, but not especially hard to find. I know these you can still find for $5 to $10 on the Spanish marketplace. Tomb of Dracula 1, this one sold really cheap. I think I've sold these for 50 to maybe 75. But I am seeing it says color touch on the spine, so I didn't notice that. So that's probably why this one sold so cheap. And it also is not the first edition from Spain. They had a Vertice redrawn cover that I think looks way better. That was all red. That looked really cool. So this is kind of like the second print. This one is actually a pretty tough book to find. I've only owned, I think, one or two of these. The Thor 337 first appearance of Beta Ray Bill. For whatever reason, I don't know if this is just kind of like a, it's number 25 in the Thor Spain series. So if it's just kind of a harder book to find, or later print run, or later book in the run, so they just didn't print as many. But yeah, it's not, for some reason this one is harder to find than other books from Spain of this era. This was printed in 1985, and these are all by Forum Comics. You can see Comics Forum up there. So 4.5, $71 is a pretty good deal. or not a good deal, but it was a good sale for the buyer or for the seller, I'd say. All right, so we get to the first big boy book of the night, which there wasn't a lot of them, but this one was Superman 53 from Japan, printed in 1948. So it's an old book, golden age book from Japan, and that print and font just looks absolutely amazing. And this was their Superman #1 over there. So pretty amazing book. I don't really know much about this. I haven't really collected this cover set or anything like that. I'm not a huge Superman collector, but from what I'm kind of hearing chatter and among foreign collectors, that this is definitely extremely hard book to find. So the $6,755 seems like a pretty probably warranted price. So this and this other, there's another one, 2 Brazilian kind of facsimiles that I just cannot understand why these sold for this much. And this book is something you can find in Brazil for $10 to $20 or less. So why it's sold for $632, I have no idea. It's basically these Invictus. They did kind of just like the big historical stories of these characters. Like they did a bunch of different DC books, and this one, $632. I really can't understand why this one sold for that much. Like I said, you could find this, and I don't see a date on. I don't know if they didn't print the date, but this book is from either, I think, the late 80s or early 90s, so it's not old. So I don't know. Hopefully whoever spent that much knew what they were getting. So this is kind of the only reason I put this in here is because one of the foreign collectors that's in a chat I'm in had purchased this book previously, I think from Heritage or Comic Connect, I can't remember which one, but it was incomplete and it wasn't listed as incomplete in the auction. So he returned it, got his money back, I'm assuming. I think he kind of had a hassle with that. But then they relisted the book again and still didn't post that it was incomplete. So hopefully whoever bought this book knows that, or realizes once they buy it, that it is incomplete. It wasn't listed as such, so hopefully they kind of do a page count and realize that, if this is the same book, it was not complete and they should probably not have paid that much for it. This is just kind of a random Charlie Brown Spanish price variant. Very easy to find. You could probably find this book all day long for $5. Spanish marketplace sold for $40, so there might be a little room to make some money. And this run does have there's quite a few different Charlie Brown kind of like classic covers, including the Peanuts 1 cover where they're just like sitting watching TV. There's a Mexican version of that and a Spanish version. I've had both 2 different times, and I think I've sold both times to Foreign Comic Keys. Rob, he loves Peanuts, so he got those out of my collection. But I got some good stuff from him, in the past. So another Iron Fist. This is first appearance Sabretooth, and this one is a redraw, hard to tell, but just kind of cool graphics, cool looking book. $120, 4.0. So that's a pretty decent sale for that book. And Sabretooth doesn't have a lot of heat on him right now, I wouldn't say. But these have definitely. This one's way harder to find than even the first one, the Marvel Premiere 15, his first appearance. This one sells for more and is harder to find. So more people, I guess, want the first appearance of Sabretooth than they want the first appearance of Iron Fist. This one sold kind of low. I was kind of surprised. The Incredible Hulk 181 from Brazil. I thought it would sell for more than this. It's a digest-sized book. Kind of hard to find. And now there's bootlegs of this book in Brazil and facsimiles. So you never know what you're going to get. This one's sold for $373. Probably not a pretty good deal for whoever bought that. If they don't have access to a Brazilian seller or don't know anyone in Brazil, this was a good score for them. All right, then we got another big book, Big Booty Gwen, Hombre Araña 180 from Mexico, 4.5. So I know the guy that was selling this one. I think he was probably hoping for more for this. This is kind of like I'd say the number 2 key in in the non-canon series, kind of behind the Wedding Issue, maybe, and it can be argued, with the most popular ones. I know the Satanica cover is really popular, and there's a couple of the Vampirella cover, and then some of the later covers aren't really that great looking, but they're much harder to find because they're really late in the run. But this one, it's just, it's Big Booty Gwen. She's, Gwen Stacy with a big butt. No other reason for her to be on that cover than just to show it off. So, this is one book I've kind of wanted in my collection, and me and the guy that had it kind of were going back and forth on possible trades for it. But it looks like he wanted to sell it, and that's all good. And I don't know if that's, to me that seems like a good price. That's about what I would have valued. I would say this book was worth $1,500 to $2,000, but I think he was hoping for probably more based on kind of the trades we were talking. So hopefully it all worked out for him. But yeah, so $2,000 is still nothing to scoff at, especially when these non-canon books were selling for $300 to $500. Not even 5-6 years ago. So there's definitely been some big upticks in the prices of these books. Very specific ones, though, like other ones just aren't selling for very much for some reason. Just, I don't know if it's just because the covers are kind of ugly or just not that great, or if it's really the whole Gwen Stacy aspect that really turns people onto these books. So those seem like the ones to chase. All right, then we got the big book of the night, 7.5, El Sorprendente Hombre Araña 128, the famous Wedding Issue. This one went for $25,300, so that kind of just confirms, there's been a lot of hate and a lot of speculation on the different sales of, we had the Josh sold his for something like close to $30,000 on eBay a couple years ago, and there's definitely a whole group of people that were kind of hating on that and saying that it was just fake and he was blah, 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 but, after that, there was another sale at, I guess, Comic Connect of this book. I think it was a 8.0, possibly. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was 8.0. And I believe it sold for $25,000. So here we got another, 7.5 sold for $25,000. So it's kind of gotten to the point now where the haters can at this point probably just suck it, because this has been a pretty well proven book that this is what people are paying for it. So I would just hope people that realize that, calling these sales fake or saying the blah, 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 that they just, it's kind of just sounded more like jealousy than anything. So all I can say is I'm glad I got my copy when I did. I said it before, my copy is incomplete, but still, I'm just happy to have it. I'm missing the centerfold. Maybe one day I'll find the centerfold floating around, or a coverless copy that, I can get for cheap, and at least I can just say I got an incomplete book and a centerfold. So to me, it's complete enough. But yeah, $25,300, huge sale. And this book, as the whole comic market's pretty much collapsed, foreign market's kind of gone down some. This book is just holding strong. Hasn't lost much value at all, it seems like. So, I think this was definitely the highlight of the night, and this is the book that kind of carried the whole auction. All right, and this was another one that surprised me, and I didn't really understand why it sold for this much, especially in that grade. But then William Chesser, he's a collector of, he's got tons of foreign comics, and I think he's collecting this cover run. He explained that this is like a Flemish price variant, which I didn't even know existed. So I don't know if that's a sticker, or it looks like a sticker, not a stamp. But yeah, so this is a price variant that I guess is really hard to find. So it's not even listed as such, not even on the label anywhere. But collectors that know that this existed knew that this was very tough to find, and that is why they went after it. Because this, in my mind, in that grade, should have been maybe a $200 book. So I didn't know about this, so it's always good to learn new things. So shout out to William for spreading the info, and yeah, it's a pretty cool book. So more kind of just cool keys, but nothing really hard to find. 9.0 Batman Adventures 12 sold for $200, which actually seems pretty cheap based on the fact that you could sell these all day for $100 on eBay just raw. So 9.0, that's high grade for a Brazilian book, even a newer one. So 218, I would have thought that would have gone a little bit higher, but there's not exactly a lot going on with Harley Quinn, I don't think, right now. That new Joker movie bombed pretty hard. Some people I've talked to said it was like the worst superhero movie they've ever seen. I like the first one. I probably won't ever even watch the second one. But so probably not a good time for the history of Harley Quinn right now. Oops. All right, where are we at? So another one. This is Netherlands. Sold for this was a 7.5, sold for 173. So really not too far off from the Brazilian. So yeah, I think these are just kind of the set builders have kind of slowed down, or this book has kind of lost its heat for whatever reason. All right, and this one was in my eyes, a pretty decent sale, high grade. Avengers 1 from Brazil, digest size book, 8.0. It's tough to find. And these little they're called, the publisher is Block, BLOCH. These little blocks can be kind of tough to find, and some of them have posters in the center, so that's something you got to kind of keep in mind. Make sure it's complete. But $5.45, that seemed like a pretty decent price. So let's see. Next, we've got the Spider-Man 300 from the Netherlands. Not a particularly hard book to find, but a pretty decent grade, 8.5, sold for 164. So that's, seems a little cheap. I feel like all these ASM 300s were selling for about $100 raw minimum, regardless of the country. And that's buying from somebody in country. So yeah, I'm not really sure why I guess the Venom movie is just not as hot of a character. The comic market, modern stuff has just kind of gone down in value. I'm not really sure. And same with this one. This is Spain. You couldn't even get a raw copy off the Spanish marketplace for less than 100 euros. So yeah, this asking price this sold price is pretty low because this includes the buyer premium. So yeah, someone got a pretty good deal there for a slabbed. If they're selling for 100 euros on the Spanish market, and then someone spent $30 to get it slabbed, and it's 7.5, which isn't a terrible grade. It's not great, but not terrible. 95 seems cheap. And another one that seemed a little cheap was this ASM 129. Obviously, this isn't the first print. This is from RGE. So this one is the second time this was printed. First time was E-Ball, and then after this one there was like a gold cover. So there's 3 different ASM. Actually, there's I think 4 now. 4 different ASM 300 ASM 129s from Brazil, and then the 4th one is like almost like a trade paperback with kind of a cool cover. It's like kind of like a hodgepodge of a bunch of different art on the cover that makes up the ASM 129 cover. But those aren't hard to find. You should be able to find those for $50 or less. If you're buying direct from Brazil, I don't think you should be paying probably more than $20-$30 for it. But yeah, this was $172. Seems pretty inexpensive. So this is Action Comic 1. This is the other one that was kind of questionable to me, why it sold for $215. This is not a hard book to find. I bought one of these just like a year or 2 ago from my source in Brazil, and it's a pretty decent copy, and I think I paid $30 for it. These are printed. This was printed in 1994. So this one was printed after the other one I showed you, but still, like, they're both pretty newer prints. So yeah, I'm not really sure why they're commanding these big prices, but hey, I don't know. It's good for the people that have them, I guess, in Brazil, and the people that have them in the U.S. if they want to sell them. Action Comics 242 from Brazil, 3.5, sold for 345. In that grade seems like a pretty solid sale. Not high grade, pretty pretty low, lowish grade for Brazil. With, let's say, anything over 5.0 would be kind of considered mid to high grade, and 8.0 being like very high grade. So yeah, 345 seems like a fair price. I mean, I bought a raw copy not too long ago that for 300, but it graded out to I think like a 5.0. So yeah, maybe could have done better, but there seems to be a lot of these popping up for sale. I've owned 3 or 4 myself, so I don't think it's a particularly rare Brazilian key. And I guess that's it. So yeah, kind of a quicker little. Like I said, there just wasn't really much of interest in unless you want me to sit here and talk about like Micronauts 1 or some other kind of like non really that big a key books. That's just kind of what that auction was filled with. Just kind of a lot of second tier keys and a lot of easier to find foreign stuff. And I would say it's kind of a lot of those books are kind of more beginner level foreign comic collecting. Like really, if you don't know where to get Spanish keys and you've been doing this for a while, then you've got a problem. Like that's definitely not hard to find keys from Spain. So yeah, a lot of that stuff was just kind of easy to find stuff. So I think it kind of showed in the auction. There was very few books that went over $100. Very few books that went over less 3 that went over 1,000, maybe 4. So yeah, it was definitely a little bit of a different vibe than the last couple Comic Connect auctions. Also, timing with it being 1 week before Christmas, probably not the best timing. I probably wouldn't want to be putting my stuff in there, but who knows? Maybe we'll see what the springtime auctions bring. Hopefully there'll be a little better variety, and we'll see the prices keep doing what they're doing, and Comic Connect seems to keep bringing the money in. So we'll see how it goes. All right, have a good night. Bye.